What the Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, lifelong sports fan, glutton for punishment. Take your pick of negative derogatory statements for the Falcons. Oh boy, this was an ugly start to the Desmond Ridder era for the Falcons here, going to New Orleans and losing to the Saints. Now, to be fair, Desmond Ridder was placed in a hole early. The defense got down 14-0, which is never a good place to be with a quarterback who has a known history of feeling like he has to make plays or is kind of a gunslinger. Now, in his press conference yesterday, he did admit that he was a little jacked up, amped up, whatever the word you want to say is. He had a lot of nerves about him, and it definitely showed. He went 13 for 26, had a total of 97 yards. He took 4 sacks on the day, and as far as running, he had 6 for 38. So, not terrible. Now, the thing that I did like seeing from Ridder, I did like seeing shots downfield that were semi-accurate compared to Mariota, which were never accurate. So it was nice to see balls be where they were supposed to be. The problem is he's trying to thread a needle against NFL-caliber defenses, whereas he played lesser opponents for most of his collegiate career. I can't remember who it was. There was one particular linebacker who I think had, what did he have, 3 or 4 pass breakups? I think it might have been Alontae Taylor. If he is I think he's a linebacker, no, corner. Who the heck was it? I can't remember. There was one guy that had a ton of passes defended and had 2 dropped interceptions for the Saints playing in the kind of the middle linebacker position. I don't know. They might have moved a corner into that position as well. But the difference was it seemed like the Falcons on defense were allowing anything to go up the middle. If you wanted to do a 10-yard pass on a slant or on a cut route inside, you were going to pick it up against our Falcons defense, whereas if we did the same thing against the Saints, you weren't getting it. It just was not going to happen. There was going to be a linebacker and a safety double-teaming whoever the heck was in the middle. Linebacker having a hand in front of the ball and the safety coming in from behind to make the tackle if they did get the catch. All that said, Ridder, it was a tough environment. I have been to New Orleans before. That is probably one of the loudest environments I've ever been in, and it doesn't help that that's probably the most hated rivalry between the two teams with each other is the Saints versus Falcons. So I do want to say this. Congratulations to the Saints. Y'all played a hell of a game. Tough year overall for you guys, tough year for us as well. It does look like Atlanta may finish at the bottom of the division now. We would have to, I think our playoff hopes are more or less over at this point. The bright spots in this game, Tyler frackin' Algier getting 139 yards on 17 carries, including a 43-yard long and 1 touchdown. 5th-round pick, looking like a beast. He is showing 2nd and 3rd round caliber, what he probably should have been. He has looked really good this year. I'm glad that he's on our team. I'm glad we've got him on the cheap for at least 2 more, I think 1 or 2 more years as a 5th rounder. We will probably have to pay him sooner than later if we're going to keep him on the team. Cordarrelle Patterson, 14 for 52 yards. We had a solid rush game. There's not many scenarios where you should run for 231 yards and lose a game. Andy Dalton looked effective through the air, though. 11 for 17, 2 touchdowns, 11 of 17, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Taysom Hill got in on the action with 2 passes for 80 total yards. I can't remember who. I think he might have had the long pass to who was it? Rashid Shaheed. I think that was him. I'd have to go back and look at that specifically, but I know he had a touchdown pass as well. We got beat up through the air. Richie Grant, I have spoken well of him for most of the season. He got beat bad. He broke the cardinal rule of NFL defense, or really any defense. You do not let the wide receiver get behind you when you're the last line of defense. You don't do that, and he just took his eyes off the receiver. He did try to go up and make a play on the ball, but he was so far ahead of where the pass was going to be, there was no chance in hell he was coming down with it. So that ended up being a long touchdown. And again, it also didn't help that the title of today's video being BOUNTYGATE 2.0. That has nothing to do with the on-the-field actions. I thought it was a pretty clean game overall on the field. I know there's nothing to this. This is just a conspiracy theory. But given that we are playing the frickin' Saints, and they have the frickin' history of BOUNTYGATE, it is awfully suspicious that in the pregame warm-ups, a Saints player, which I don't know if we have the name of that Saints player, it was not named yesterday, a Saints player runs into our defensive coordinator, causing him to go to the ground. 72-year-old man who has to be carted off the field in a neck brace and go to the hospital. Now, thank God, Dean Pease seems to be okay. The report coming after the game is that he was cleared to travel back with the team and go back to Flowery Branch with them yesterday. Seems like he actually was okay overall, just suffering some minor injuries, but took him out of the game before it ever happened, and it did seem like in the early stages that the defense really was missing the play calling of Dean Pease. And I don't know if it would have made a difference, but again, it's a conspiracy, but I can't help but think, given the history here, Saints fans, that there's not just a little bit of underhandedness, a little bit of dirtiness and crookedness going on in the background there. I don't actually think that's going on, but it would make, I'm not going to lie, it's going to make for a great storyline, so we're keeping BOUNTYGATE 2.0 as the title of this video. But overall, Falcons still were able to stay in the game. Ritter did not have a passing touchdown, but again, this was all about the run game today. We had a few problems early on. We tried to throw the ball and force the ball early. I think our first 17 plays, we had 12 passes and only 5 rushes or so. Or first 17 plays, it might have been something like that, like 12 passes, 5 rushes. It was something crazy where we tried to go completely different than what we've been doing this year, which is kind of what we wanted to see as Falcons fans. We wanted to see something different. We wanted to see what we have in Ritter, and we got a sample size in a tough environment. And I don't think this is the best of Ritter. This is certainly not a good look for him. He is not going to be the immediate savior that we thought he was going to be, like Matt Ryan appeared to be when he first came in the late 2000s. So I think that we are going to be going through some growing pains with Ritter here. I still want to give him an entire season to grow and to get better here. Again, I also still feel like we set him up to fail in some regards by not playing him at home when we had the chance. We had 2 home games that would have been perfectly suitable to do, and again, against semi-lesser opponents overall, opponents that did not put up 14 points in the span of like 10 minutes on us, and could have gotten him in a better environment overall in front of a home crowd that was happy to see him. As it stands, again, the Falcons are pretty much out of playoffs. We do play an injured and banged up offense on with the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore on Christmas Eve, and then we're going to come back and we're going to have the Kyler Murray-less Arizona Cardinals, which, again, is a winnable game. I think Colt McCoy, I believe, went down with an injury yesterday, too, so they're on their 3rd-string quarterback at this point. And then same thing with Baltimore. It just depends on what happens with Lamar. I'm going to go ahead and give a preview. I'm picking the Falcons to win that game as long as Lamar is out. I'm going to put an asterisk by that tomorrow when I make that video. If Lamar is playing, I'm absolutely picking the Baltimore Ravens. That defense is going to be incredibly difficult in a cold environment, especially given the recent news report that I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the idea of the Siberian train for weather patterns, but basically we are about to be getting a ton of sub-zero air from the Siberian area. There's apparently a high-pressure system going out there. It's going to push air directly over the Arctic and then through the Midwest and down into the East Coast and Southeast this coming week leading into Christmas. Might be the coldest Christmas a lot of us have experienced in quite some time. So it's going to be an incredibly difficult, cold environment to start in Baltimore this coming weekend. There's a lot that has a chance to go wrong for Ritter here. He's going to be in 2 of the toughest environments to start a football career that you can imagine. And then he finally gets to come home. And I think his first good game at this point is going to be New Year's Day. I could be incredibly pleasantly surprised. He's got his first game jitters out of the way. He may come back and be great next week. I was being overly optimistic saying we were going to go 4-0. I just had that faith and that hope. I don't think that's the case anymore. I still see us probably going 2-2 or 1-3 over the course of the next few weeks. But anyways, guys, defense did tighten up. They got better towards the end of the game. We did see a ton of action to Drake London in this game, so that was another great thing. And then we did pick up a handful of sacks here. We had a half sack from Grady Jarrett and Lorenzo Carter, then we had a full-on sack, which looks beautiful from Rashaan Evans. Again, Evans and Lorenzo Carter, I don't know if we're going to keep them next year. They were both on one-year deals. I'm not sure if they're gonna be back with us next year. They're both guys that I think have potentially earned a roster spot. Evans maybe less so just because we have a crowded linebacking core already, but Lorenzo Carter has proven that he can be a semi-effective edge rusher. So hopefully, sorry about that, guys. We had a quick meeting with staff there. So anyways, just again, disappointing week against the Saints. We do not get along with Saints fans and that crowd, but tough loss. We were in the game all the way to the end of it. But hopefully, next year is going to look brighter. This is yet another close game for us, another one-score loss. Hopefully we can be like the Vikings next year, who had a ton of one-score losses last year and have turned around and been fine on the rebound. But we'll see. I think we're a few years away from that. But I do think next year could be better. There certainly were some play calling issues from Arthur Smith and the staff as well. I think some of that was D&P's not being there. But the offense has to be a little bit better in clock management, particularly there at the end. We had a great scoring drive there close to the or in the the fourth quarter, which did give us that 2-point conversion. But it took a ton of time off the clock, and it really didn't give us a lot to work with towards the end of the game. But guys, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing. If you got any other thoughts for my content, I'd really appreciate hearing it. Tough loss for the Falcons. Definitely looks like not playoff contention. We do have the 7th pick right now in the draft, which could end up being a better pick overall if we do lose some more games, which may happen here towards the end of the season. But guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, rise up.